There's something particularly exciting about a bundt cake. It's the exciting shape, the intense flavor, the glaze, you name it. Bundt cakes date back, I'm pretty sure, like a couple hundred years. I may be wrong, don't quote me on that. But one thing I did previous to this series is I did a monthly alcoholic bundt cake. I called it the Boozy Bundt series, where I would take classic cocktails and turn them into bundt cakes. So today we're gonna be making a tequila sunrise bundt. Tequila sunrise! Which is super easy. It's an orange bundt cake soaked with tequila and a delicious grenadine glaze for the ultimate cocktail cake. I'm just gonna get my dry ingredients together real quick. You see we have my gorgeous stand mixer here. I'm just gonna add some baking powder, baking soda, and salt to my cake flour. I am using cake flour for this. It makes a really nice tender cake. If you don't have cake flour or cannot find it, you can use the same measurement of all-purpose, and then for each cup of cake flour that you're using, take out 2 tablespoons of that and replace that 2 tablespoons with cornstarch. So for instance, I have 3 cups of cake flour, measure 3 cups of all-purpose, take out 6 tablespoons, and then replace that with 6 tablespoons of cornstarch, and boom, homemade cake flour. So I'm just gonna mix my dry ingredients together real quick. In my trusty mixer here, we're gonna start off by creaming our butter and sugar together, which is the foundation for most cakes. You wanna make sure you're using totally softened, unsalted butter here. Cold, hard butter will not blend into this batter the way we need it to, so make sure you soften your butter. A really easy trick is to pour really, really hot water into a glass, let it sit, let that glass heat up, dump it out, and then put the sticks of butter inside of that, and the residual heat will actually soften the butter without melting it. You can put it in the microwave in like 8-second intervals as well. That's what I do sometimes if I forget to leave my butter out, and it will soften it the same way without melting as well. You just got to keep a very close eye on it. So to my 1.5 cups of butter, 3 sticks, I'm adding a couple cups of granulated sugar, and we're gonna cream this together. Creaming butter and sugar simply means you are combining them and letting that sugar dissolve a little bit, because that's gonna really help the texture of the cake. So you want to make sure you give it a solid 2 to 3 minutes in your mixer on a medium speed before you add anything else. I like to sip my iced latte while I wait for this business to get going. Come on. How you doing? All right, my butter and sugar nice and creamed, light and fluffy, a bit paler in color. Now before I proceed with the rest of this stuff, since this is tequila sunrise, what I like to do is flavor the cake with all the components of the drink. So normally if there's a fruit or a cordial or, what's up? That is what I flavor the cake after. Soak the cake in the main liquor that the drink needs, and then any other complementary flavors I put in the glaze. So you get all the flavors of the drink, the alcoholic punch, and it is a cocktail and a cake. So we're gonna be flavoring this orange because a tequila sunrise is tequila, orange, and grenadine. Very simple, very classic, and very tropical, and I love that. I'm all about a tropical cake. So I'm gonna want a lot of orange zest in here because zest is one of the best ways to flavor a cake. So I'm gonna use the zest of about 2 medium oranges here, which is, that doesn't look like as much as I thought it was gonna be. Girl, where are you? This is probably gonna be about 2 tablespoons worth of zest. But guess what? If you want a stronger flavored cake, add more zest. Doesn't really matter actually. As long as you don't change the measurements of the rest of the stuff, then we're not gonna have a problem. All right, nice hefty amount of orange zest there. All right, so I gave my bowl a nice scrape down there. We're gonna go in with the eggs. I like to make sure my rooms are at Whoops. My eggs are at room temperature for this because when everything is the same temperature, it blends a lot easier. So if you don't have room temperature eggs, you can actually stick your eggs in a bowl of hot water for like 5 minutes and boom, instant room temperature eggs. These animals are giving me problems today. So another thing I do with batters like this is I add the eggs one at a time and let each one incorporate fully into the batter before adding the next. Now I have to say one of the most important steps about making anything is scraping your bowl down pretty consistently just so everything gets evenly mixed in. All right, that is beautiful. So once our eggs are added, we're gonna go in with the flavorings. So I have some vanilla extract here that I'm gonna add along with all that gorgeous freshly grated orange zest. Gonna mix that in on a low speed for just about a minute. And now we're gonna alternately add our dry mixture with a cup of buttermilk. It's good to alternately add these because it gives everything a great chance to mix in evenly. Do it on a low speed so we don't risk overbeating the flour, because if you remember what I said from the last episodes, don't overbeat your flour because it'll be what? Tough. So on a low speed, I like to start with the dry, about a third of it. Not on a high speed, otherwise it'll go everywhere. Then about half my buttermilk, another third of my dry mixture, the rest of the buttermilk, and then the last of my dry. I'm gonna turn this mixer off just when it's barely done beating. This is gonna be our last chance to really scrape this bowl down and make sure everything got incorporated. So the only downside of this thing is it's massive and it is like an absolute chore to move around. So it's just gonna live there for now. Let's give this some folds, bring it together. I have quite a collection of bundt pans. I have like 8 of them. I like them to be different shapes. But this one's particularly exciting, and it was like, that's a tequila sunrise right there. So, regardless of the shape of your bundt pan, this is a 12 cup. I use cooking spray for this just because there's so many fine grooves in there. We need to really spray this bad boy down, like really focus on all these lines. I cannot tell you how many times that's happened to me, and a nice dust of cooking spray.
Can't wait for my lungs to inhale that.
But yeah, it's legit infuriating when you put in the effort to make a bundt cake. It bakes for like an hour. You wait all that time, let it cool, turn it out, and it breaks in half. Life's too short to have to make your bundt cake more than once. Kind of stick my spatula in there, make sure there's no big air pockets. I'm going to do this, tap it on the counter a few times, and that's gonna get out any big air pockets. All right, perfect. So this is gonna go in an oven, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for about, I'd say like 50 to 60 minutes. All ovens run different, so big tip is check your oven temperature. Oven thermometers are pretty cheap, and it's good to just have one in there at all times because you can preheat your oven to one temperature and in reality it's like totally off. I've had ovens that are 50 degrees cold or hot, and your stuff will not bake the way you need it to if you think it's a different temperature. So 350 Fahrenheit, 50 to 60 minutes until it's nice and golden brown on top, it's risen, it's firm to the touch, or the best way to check these is get long wooden skewers, insert them all the way into the center. If they come out clean, then you are good to go. So normally I'd edit this out, because clearly, what a fail. But you know what? I like showing you guys everything that goes on, and there are a lot of times where creators have to make things multiple times, and this is one of those days. And to that I say, ay caramba. All right, y'all. I mean, not gonna lie, had a moment where I kind of wanted to rage quit on this because clearly she ain't pretty. And you know, we all have those days where you're like, I've made this a million times, so why the hell is this not turning out? But you know what? This cake has a story. It's reflective of me. It's a giant mess. Realistically thinking, I mean, I greased the shit out of my pan, so instead of sitting here questioning and being upset about it and making it for a third time because I hate wasting ingredients, I'm gonna show you guys how to make it work in the chance that this happens to you at home and you're trying to make it for someone else. First step is don't get irritated, which I've already done. When you think about it, we're just gonna be putting a glaze on top of this and cherries. So I tried to piece it together because like the top little grooves stuck in the pan. So at least good news number one is we're really not losing that much cake at all. It's just these thin little lines. But just to make this look a little bit neater, I'm gonna make sure it's at least even across the top. So I'm just gonna keep my knife flat and trim all of that off right there so we have a nice flat surface to work with. You're really the only one who has to know that anything went wrong. So if you can cover it up and fake it till you make it, then everyone's happy, honestly. You may be thinking, oh, I wish that wouldn't have gone wrong, but redeem yourself next time. As I'm gonna get this cake on my serving platter here. 9 times out of 10, there's always something you can do to salvage the situation. But of course, there are those times where things do go terribly wrong and you kind of just have to start over. So we're gonna be actually moving on with this recipe, and here I have some simple syrup, which is just equal parts sugar and water. I did 2 tablespoons of each, and I microwaved it for like 60 seconds until it boiled and all the sugar dissolved. That's basic simple syrup. Super easy, hence the name simple. So I'm going to mix some tequila with it just to kind of lighten the tequila a little bit so it's not quite so harsh. About half a cup of tequila in there. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna soak the cake with this. Basically, we're trying to get everybody drunk so that they don't realize how ugly the cake is. But this is a part of all my boozy bunts where I soak the cake in the liquor. And it doesn't really make it too strong or alcoholic, but it does add a lovely note to it. So I'm just gonna poke it with a dowel just to kind of help the alcohol soak in a little more. And I'm gonna also put some paper towels down here so in case any drips off, it doesn't get all over the place. Center that on the plate, and I'm just gonna like gently pour this over. Do it slowly and focus on the top of the cake so that it all soaks in. And see, I'm already no longer mad about my cake sticking a little bit. Now I will say soaking your cakes in any type of syrup, regardless of the flavor, helps it stay moist. It doesn't dry out as quickly. So one thing a lot of professional bakers do is they actually soak their cakes in some type of flavored syrup so that you not only enhance the flavor, but it stays nice and moist. All right, and now that that's good to go, I'm gonna get this glaze going. So glaze is very, very simple. It is icing sugar and a liquid. And for this, because it's tequila sunrise, I wanna flavor this glaze. I'm gonna use freshly squeezed orange juice from the oranges I had the zest from in the cake, so we're using all the parts of the orange. And I'm gonna be using a little bit of grenadine, which for these Luxardo cherries is actually really, really thick and tastes even better. So I'm gonna be adding about a tablespoon of this cherry syrup into here. All right, I'd say that's about a tablespoon. Trying not to make a complete mess here. And then this is gonna go in the confectioner sugar. If your glaze isn't quite thin enough, you can thin it out with more orange juice, more grenadine. I'm gonna put just a tiny splash of milk in here, like a tablespoon's worth, and that should do the trick. Glaze thins out really, really easily, so you don't wanna add too much liquid in here. So don't hate me for this, but I'm actually gonna add just like a few drops of red food color in there, just so that this glaze looks a little more sunrisey, and that definitely looks more grenadine to me. And I only added a few drops, not a lot, but that looks great. And I'm just gonna gently pour it evenly on the top of the cake here. She doesn't look terrible, okay? At the end of the day, what matters is that it tastes amazing. So I'm just gonna finish this off with some maraschino cherries here. Not really gonna be any rhyme or reason to how I'm putting these on. I'm just gonna kind of randomly drop them. And you know what, guys, that actually looks pretty exciting to me. So just goes to show you that just because something goes wrong, it doesn't have to be a total fold. She agrees. And I wasn't expecting to make this over the course of 2 days, so this is actually my breakfast. Definitely get tequila. That literally went between my apron and my shirt. This has literally been the episode of Epic Fails. Regardless, everything else aside, this cake is absolutely delicious. And yes, that is the excess glaze that I'm letting drip into the sink that pooled into the center of the cake, okay? Whatever. But you can find the full written recipe, metrics included, on my website. The link for that's down below, along with a link to my cookbook and my merchandise on my social media. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Leave me a thumbs up and some comments down below. I think I've about had it for today, so until next time, this is Bake It with AJ. I feel like I need a damn drink after this, jeez. Whew, Lord help me.